Seattle News Weekly from Fox 13.
Hey there, everyone. Welcome to Seattle News Weekly podcast. I'm Erin Mayovsky alongside John Hopperstad. John, thanks for joining us today.
Hey, thanks for having me.
It seems only fitting. I know you jumped on board to talk about the Seahawks. This is a huge week, and we are so excited as fans and kind of as
lifelong fans.
You know, growing up here in the Pacific Northwest, it's been a long time coming. I feel like we should have several Super Bowls under our belts here, but
we should at least have one more.
I know.
We don't like to talk about that one.
No.
But even if you go back to, what was it, 2005? Refs, thanks a lot, refs.
I know.
Probably should have that one as well.
Yeah, for sure. But we do have at least one, and that's the good news. And as we head into this huge rivalry matchup this weekend at Lumen Field, we have an extra player, the 12th man. It's going to be loud. I hope we're going to get Beastquake material.
I think there's a potential. I don't know if it's going to be like rocking on the seismic activity, but it's going to be loud. And this time it sounds like the Hawks as a organization is kind of coming down on their season ticket holders and saying, hey, don't sell your tickets to 49ers fans. We're watching. There's going to be some penalties if you do. Maybe lose your season tickets. So I do have a feeling that we are going to see the majority Hawks. We'll see some 49ers fans there, but for the majority, I think it's going to be Hawks fans, and they're going to be as loud maybe as they've ever been for a game.
Well, yeah, go ahead and come on into our stadium, come on into the Pacific Northwest, but it's not going to be very fun when they have to pack up and go home.
Go home.
Right?
And
Get
then,
out of
and
here.
then season's over.
Yeah, I heard a couple Seahawks saying, I don't like them. I don't like the team. I don't like the rivalry. But, you got to say, I will say that I really have fond feelings for KJ Wright.
Of course.
He's such a good guy, and he's over on that sign. It must be kind of awkward for him. He's going to come into Lumen Field and have all the emotions. Yeah. Can you imagine what it feels like? He was part of that Legion of Boom, and now it's like the dark side.
And he's a legend here now, and it was kind of, you were hopeful when the new regime at the Hawks took over, Mike McDonald, that they could keep him, put him in a position, a coaching position perhaps, and keep him here because nobody knows the linebacker position better than him. Defenses, how to play against good offenses. So I was sad to see him go, especially going to San Francisco. Hopefully someday we get him back here because this is where he belongs.
Yeah, he for sure belongs here. Well, this week I got a chance to catch up with Steve Raible. I mean, he is the legend, right?
Yep.
He is a Seahawks legend.
An original.
He's an original. He's been there since 1976. He got drafted in the second round of the NFL draft. I think he was number 55 or 59. And he's one of the lone remainers of that era. And it's just hard to believe. I was talking to him, and he doesn't remember a lot of it, but in 1975, he was at Georgia Tech, and they played Notre Dame and the whole Rudy situation.
Rudy, yep.
Yeah, he remembers it, but it was a long time ago.
That was a long time. How does he remember even playing for the Hawks? It's been so long.
Oh, my gosh. Well, we talked about that. So let's play a clip here from Raible on talking about his time with the Hawks.
50 years ago, I was at training camp with the Seahawks, practicing, trying to figure out what it was going to take to be a pro. And then was able to, like you say, stick with them for 6 years as a player. But I've been asked often, what's your favorite call? And a lot of people bring up Beastquake and all of the great calls of the Seahawks. My favorite call was one that wasn't a play at all, but it was just a statement of fact. And that is back in the Meadowlands in New York at MetLife Stadium at the end of that Super Bowl game against the Denver Broncos, where we were winning convincingly. And I waited until it was all zeros on the clock because I didn't want to jinx anything, even though we won, 43-8. But I said something to the effect that 12s, they're bringing the trophy home. Your Seahawks, Super Bowl 48 champions. That's my favorite call of all time because it was the first time that anybody had ever been able to say Seahawks are Super Bowl champions.
I can imagine that would be a pretty amazing moment.
I mean, for him especially, it's near and dear to his heart. And, as time goes on, we all age, right?
Right.
And he's aged gracefully, and he's still looking smooth, but he's got to probably have all those emotions and memories flutter right through, bringing him right back.
Well, so many Seahawk fans, I don't think even realize he played for the Hawks. He's one of the originals. He was number 2 behind Steve Largent, obviously almost from day one there. But he was
Steve and Steve.
Steve's and Steve, and he was a great player. He was a great receiver. He was great on the Hawks. And, then he became a color commentator with Pete Gross, the legendary Pete Gross, as the play-by-play guy. But he has been the play-by-play guy for so long now. I think a lot of these younger Hawks fans don't even realize at this point Steve Raible was a player and a doggone good one, and he's an original Seahawk.
I know. So let's look at this. 1976 drafted, like we said, second round by the Hawks out of Georgia Tech. Played 6 seasons with the Hawks as the wide receiver. 3 touchdowns, 68 receptions, over 1,000 yards receiving. And then he just shifts and goes to play-by-play for Cairo Radio. I think he started out as color, and then he switched to play-by-play.
Yeah, he started as a color guy.
22 years of color. Wow, 44 years overall, and a 5-time Emmy winner, Best News Anchor.
Yes.
You forget about that, too.
A great anchor who I kind of emulated in my early days of this business. Be like Steve Raible.
Yeah, I worked with him over at Cairo many years ago in the 2000s, and he was so fun to work with, mostly because we could just talk, after the weather was over or sports, and we could just get to the nitty-gritty.
I interned at Cairo back in my college days at the University of Washington, and he was there. I was in the sports department. He was in news by that point, so I never really talked to him because I was a little bit,
Nervous.
Yes, the legend of Steve Raible.
Yeah, for sure. Well, he has so much knowledge out there. Let's take a listen to what he says about Coach Mike Macdonald and Shanahan, and he talks about how these guys are like-minded, even though one's defensive and one's kind of offensive.
You bring in a new coach from a year ago who kind of got the lay of the land, kind of figured out who he knew he wanted as players for his team, and more importantly, the kind of process, the kind of systems, what it was going to take to win with this team. And that was something that Mike Macdonald had been building up over years, understanding how best to get the best out of players. And so, in fact, it came to happen. It really did all come together this year. Kyle Shanahan is the Mike Macdonald of the offensive side of football in the NFL. Young, smart, very experienced for his age as a head coach, and then as an assistant coach, learned from some very good people, including his own father, who was one of the smartest guys on the planet when he coached football back in Denver in the day. And these two guys, it's just fun watching them go head to head. One try to outthink the other. But the thing about Mike Macdonald is, and he'll tell you this, it's really not about what Kyle Shanahan does. Yeah, we have to be aware of it. We have to scout it. We have to understand what they like to do in certain situations, all those things. But it's really about us. It's about what we do. It's about us being in the right positions. It's about us tackling the guy when we have a chance, which is what we really did against McCaffrey the last time, is he never was able to break free. Everybody that hit him, then 2 or 3 other guys came up and hit him after that. He is one of the best after contact kind of runners. The Seahawks didn't give him that opportunity.
Yeah,
it's not Mike Macdonald versus Kyle Shanahan, but 2 weeks ago in that last game when we played the 49ers, we held them to just 173 total yards. That's the lowest in Kyle Shanahan's history as a head coach. And then he mentions, holding Christian McCaffrey to 23 yards. I mean, the Seahawks D, I think, I don't want to say they've got their number, the 49ers number, but they sure figured it out a couple weeks ago.
Yeah, I think the 49ers have the Seahawks in their head for sure. And when McCaffrey was going for that catch and it got kind of tipped and then that kind of sealed the deal. That could have been scary at that point when McCaffrey,
yeah.
And also, I mean, you got to give it to this team, the 49ers. They have been riddled with injury, and they've been coming back and fighting back. And do you credit it to Brock Purdy, 69.4% completion percentage, 2,100 yards? No, because Sam Darnold, 67%.
Well, and also Purdy missed so many games. Yeah. I have to credit Kyle Shanahan, the coaching staff there in the 49ers, and those players. The next guy up, I mean, that defense has been devastated, and they've still managed to be able to win games. The quarterback that filled in, I'm forgetting his name off the top of my head, the old New England Patriot quarterback there. But he came in and looked great. In fact, he should get a starting job next year with an NFL team. Mac Jones.
Yeah.
Yep. He came in and looked great, and they continued to win. So it's a testament to what they're doing down there in San Francisco. Hate to give them too much credit.
I know.
Because they are the 49ers, but they've done a great job. However, I just think the Seahawks are just a cut above. And, really, you talk about Mike McDonald, you talk about John Schneider. I really think, and I mean, I'm biased. I'm a Hawks fan for life. But John Schneider, General Manager of the Year, Mike McDonald, Coach of the Year, that's not an outlandish thing to say.
But I think, what's funny is I think with the common press and the media, they give us, it's kind of like being a part of the Pac-12. Do you know what I mean? They kind of say, Pacific Northwest, upper left. I mean, maybe this will finally be the year. I definitely agree with you on that. But I do not put it past Kyle Shanahan to do one of those plays where Purdy hands off to Jennings and McCaffrey.
They have to watch that.
I mean, do you think anybody else could have made that catch? That was a pretty intense catch with the reach out.
He's a great receiver as a running back, but that may have been the greatest reception he's ever made. Over the shoulder, incredibly hard. The throw was a little bit off, and he's just an incredible player. And really, with George Kittle out,
I know.
It's tough to see. You don't want to see that. But he is a Seahawks killer, so that's one thing we don't have to worry about at least. But with him out, I think you got to put a spy on Christian McCaffrey because they're going to be feeding him the ball left and right.
Well, it just opens up the door, too, with Kittle out. Everyone says, Kittle's out. We're going to, Seahawks are going to be fine. It opens up the door for some other person to come up through that organization in the 49ers and get another 9 guy out there that said, who's this? Then all of a sudden he's great.
And they started doing that last week with that fullback.
Yeah.
He started catching passes, and he's a great player. So, I'm not taking anything for granted. I like the Hawks' chance, but this is a rivalry. Anything can happen. It's the playoffs. Okay. And that's a great team.
Well, let's talk about this great group of football guys. Raible talks a little bit more about that and get his team.
It's a remarkable group of football players. And, again, having been around teams in the NFL for 50 seasons, I kind of know, you kind of got a sense for the teams that are really tight and the teams that aren't so much. And when you go through adversity, it really shows when teams are not kind of together. And this team has gone through a little bit of adversity this season, but they are a really close football team, and they play like it, and they play for each other. As Mike likes to say, they're connected, and that's a word that's become very in vogue with NFL teams lately.
Yeah, it has.
You know what's great about watching the NFL as opposed to the NBA or the NHL, some of these other leagues, is if a team is good in Major League Baseball or the NBA, they're pretty much good year round from beginning to end. But when in the NFL, you can watch a team get better throughout the season. You can also watch a team get worse.
I know.
But in the case of the Seahawks, we have watched that happen. We've watched them progressively get better each week until they were not an elite team, I don't think, at the beginning of the season, and now I would say they are.
Yeah.
Because they have gotten better. And I credit Mike McDonald. And again, going back to John Schneider, you look at that draft, the last couple of drafts, he has nailed just about every pick. It is amazing when you look at the draft picks and the guys that have come in right away and helped on this, especially on the defense. It's amazing. And Gray Zabel is a great lineman. I mean, offensive lineman. He's going to be a Pro Bowler for years to come. You got to give a lot of credit to the guys at the top. They got the right players, and the players are playing for them now.
Yeah, for sure. And just Mike McDonald, I was looking at some of the notes. He's just so defensive-minded. And, despite being the youngest in league at 36, he was the NFL's youngest head coach when he was hired in January of 2024. That's pretty impressive. He's a quick riser. He had success at Michigan, Ravens' top defense and everything. He just has all the accolades. And you think, is it going to bust? Is this bubble? Because that's what happens when teams keep winning. But as we know, it can happen. The UW Huskies men's football team on the other side, they kept winning, and they did it on the road. This is great that we get to do it here.
Right.
It would have been probably pretty cool for 49ers fans. Sorry that you didn't get to do it all the way at home. I mean, to have the Super Bowl at Levi's Stadium, I would love to go to that.
That would be amazing for them. But I don't think they're going to get there.
No.
However, the one thing I'll say about Mike McDonald, he's a defensive guy. That's why they brought him in, because what he did to the defense there in Baltimore. But for him to come in here and he turned that defense kind of around year one, but then into year two to make them that dominant where people are comparing them to the Legion of Boom. They're giving them nicknames now. They're that kind of a dominating defense. That's an amazing job that he has done there. Just you can't say enough about it.
Well, I talked to Raible just about that.
You have one of the best defensive fronts maybe in all of football right now. You talked about the Legion of Boom versus the dark side. The Legion of Boom was sort of built from the back end forward. had a great secondary, an unbelievable safety and corner, and a big, strong safety. And then you had a couple of guys on the edges who could rush, and Bobby Wagner in the middle. That helped. This defense is built from the front back. It's built around guys like Byron Murphy and Leo Williams and DeMarcus Lawrence and Jaron Reed, those big guys up front who everything depends on them. And so that's the way Mike has designed it. That's the way these guys play. And it's just really, really fun watching.
Yeah.
Byron Murphy, another great draft pick from last year. I mean, they just keep doing it. They just keep plugging guys in there. It's amazing.
And flipping this now from the players, the head coaches, how about to the 12s? We forgot about that aspect of it and what the 12s mean to this city, and also what it means for the economic stability of getting another weekend. I mean, that's a whole nother weekend in the downtown corridor near Soto where, places, hotels, food, vendors. I mean, vendors who may have, needed to make up some cash to help float to get through the off season.
Yeah.
This helps. It's
Yeah.
just another weekend where it booms and it gives everybody kind of that stability and that excitement. And people like to spend, even though it's tough times
They
right now.
do. And, you talk about another weekend they get, and it's a weekend they normally wouldn't have in, this time of year in January, the big dark. Nobody's going into downtown Seattle much on a weekend or a Saturday or Sunday. And here you're going to have a massive amount of people coming into Soto and Pioneer Square, spending their money, going to the bars, going to the restaurants. And you know what else is great about this for those folks down there is this is coming off this amazing Mariner season.
Yes.
Right? So the Mariners start really pouring it on about midway through the season on. So you're getting bigger crowds for Mariner games. That's bigger business for folks down there. And then the playoffs, the M's make the playoffs, and business was booming as well. Now the Seahawks, it's kind of the same story. Like midway through the year, I think everybody figured out, wow, this is amazing. People were not necessarily putting their tickets on StubHub and Game Time and all that stuff. They were going to the games, and they're spending the money down there. So this is a great boon for downtown Seattle, especially that area.
Yeah, for sure. And the 12s really make it happen. And that is something that Raible did touch on, is the 12s and what they do for this city, because there's no one like them.
Going back to 1976, the first season, they weren't called the 12s then, they were just Seahawks fans. But I remember I started a game in the Kingdome early in that season. And I remember, in fact, it was the opening game against the then St. Louis Cardinals. And I remember running out of the tunnel and out to the middle of the field to get with the rest of the offense that was being introduced. And it was so loud. You normally can hear yourself breathing or huffing and puffing or whatever. I couldn't hear anything but this crowd. And of course, that concrete lid just kept all the sound in there and made it just ridiculously loud. So take that, move it ahead 50 seasons, and here we are. Nothing's changed. The fans have been incredible. It's almost as loud in an outdoor stadium, Lumen Field, than it was in the Kingdome back in those days. And it's just so much fun for our players. They understand how much juice the fans bring.
They definitely bring the juice. I mean, it gives that extra aspect.
I kind of miss the Kingdome. Don't you miss it a little bit?
I love the Kingdome. One of my very first interviews was with Ken Griffey Jr. in the Kingdome.
Wow.
And I mean, that was so long ago.
I can remember I was lucky enough to cover the Hawks while I was in college because I got hired at Inside the Seahawks, an old magazine that hasn't existed in years. But I covered them in the 90s, and the team was terrible some of those years. I think I covered them during the 2-win season, one of the 2-win seasons. But you would go to the Kingdome for those games, and say we played Denver and John Elway was out there, and the crowd would still be like, Elway, just getting on him loud. And I'm thinking, I don't even think this team has won a game yet, but the crowd, it didn't matter.
Yeah.
Those are Seahawk fans, and they're supporting their team, and they're 12s.
And they're always there through and through. And just before we end here, just a couple quick rivalry facts here. The series lead, the Hawks currently lead all-time series with a record of 32-24, including regular season and playoff games.
Yes.
That's good.
That's good.
The dominant swings, we've had those back and forth. But remember the tip? Remember that? The
Oh,
most
yeah.
famous game in the rivalry was 2013 NFC Championship. Seattle won thanks to Richard Sherman's game-ending pass deflection known as the tip. that led to an interception.
Sorry, cornerback that we won't say his name.
Yeah, I know. And remember Sherman in all of his interviews, he said something about what he said to Erin Andrews or something.
He threw her right off. She didn't know what he was saying.
Talking about, you know what I mean? I mean, he was just on fire on all of that. So.
And you look back at that. We went to the Super Bowl in 2014. We won it in 2013. The 49ers have not won a Super Bowl. I mean, a legendary team. Give them their props. They've got a lot of trophies, but they haven't won a Super Bowl in 30 years. And Steve Young, Jerry Rice, they're not walking through that door. I mean, you want to talk about the last time they won a Super Bowl, Seinfeld was a hit on TV. That's a long time ago. I mentioned this the other day to our good friends in San Francisco. The Macarena was the big dance move, and Windows 95 had just come out.
Oh, my
It has been a long time since they've won a Super Bowl.
But they have 5, right?
I believe so.
I think they have 5. We should have 3.
No.
4. I mean, come on.
And by the way, have you been to the stadium down there in San Jose, the newer one?
I have not.
Okay, it is
Santa
impressive,
Clara,
but they have a museum right at the front of that thing to their history, and you have to pay extra to go in. I did when I went down. I said, I got to check this out. It is amazing. The first thing you do is walk by those trophies behind glass, and you know right away, okay, there's a lot of bragging rights going on in here, and it is an amazing place. And I've always thought, we have not had the success that they have, but we should have something like that down at Lumen Field or in the area around Soto Pioneer Square for the Seahawks, because we have had enough success, and we've got 50 years of memories that I think we should have something to that extent. Because I'm telling you, when you see this, it's pretty mind blowing there.
Well, maybe when we bring back the Sonics, we can get a little extra building. We'll go Lumen Field, we'll go the T-Mobile Park, and then what are we going to call in Soto? We'll just put a new stadium, right? And we won't pay for it as taxpayers. Someone else will. Otherwise,
I just want a
we
little
can edit the
museum.
climate.
I just want a little museum to the history, between the Mariners, the Sonics, and Seahawks. That's worthy.
That is worthy.
That's worthy.
Okay, so where are you going to be watching the game?
Well, some good friends of mine want to meet somewhere, but nobody wants to go early to watch it. Like the sports bar somewhere around in the North End. So we're all debating where we should go, but somebody's going to have to go early. I went for the last game. We went in there. We went to a location in Linwood, and we must have I think we went an hour and a half early, and we got seats in the bar.
Oh, cool.
But then we watched people come walking in, and there was no seats for them, and they just kept doing, they kept roving around the restaurant like somebody was going to leave. Nobody's leaving. Nobody's leaving for
Nobody
this.
leaves.
Yeah.
Oh, man. Okay, and lastly...
Where are you watching it?
I don't even want to explain my situation. I was maybe going to go. I might still, but I have someone in my family, 2 people who are 49er fans. And then my parents are Seahawks fans. Yeah. They don't want to watch it with us. And then I feel bad kind of splitting off, but I have to sit with someone who's a 40 whiner.
I can't believe you're going to have to do that. You should get out of the house.
Hey, maybe I'll call you.
Leave them there. Yeah, come with me
going.
because that's no fun.
Okay, lastly, the tickets, they're expensive. We know that. You might have to get a second and third job to recover from this, but it would be worth it if they go all the way. Right?
Or save your money and try to get tickets to the NFC Championship, which again is here as well if we can win.
I know. Let's not get ahead of ourselves.
Super Bowl goes through Seattle.
Okay. Yeah. High five here.
All right.
John Hopperstad, Erin Mayovsky. This
Hawks.
is Seattle News Weekly. And don't forget, new episodes of Seattle News Weekly podcast come out every Thursday. You can watch them on Fox local app, fox13seattle.com, or the Fox 13 Seattle YouTube channel. You can also listen anywhere you get your podcasts. And we, my friends, will see you next week.
Go Hawks.
Go Hawks.
Seattle News Weekly is available wherever you get your podcast.